A very good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America in Washington. I am Kim Stube in Maryland.
And I'm Marvelous Mplanganya Huye in Washington, where I'm broadcasting from my home because of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is currently ravaging the whole world, including Zimbabwe, where the Ministry of Health says that the number of deaths has increased from COVID-19, with the current figures standing at 268 deaths. And currently, people that have actually contracted COVID-19 stand at 9,220 cases, with recoveries being at 8,250 recoveries. And when we look at the actual active cases, currently they stand at 702 cases in Zimbabwe.
And then worldwide, Marvelous, there are over 58.8 million people that have contracted COVID-19. And out of this number, 1,390,343 have actually died. This according to Johns Hopkins University. The same university reports that over 12.3 million people have contracted COVID-19 in USA, and 256,803 people have died. When we look at Zimbabwe as well, according to the Minister of Health, there are 670 students that have been quarantined or isolated at John Talak High School just outside Bulawayo. Out of this number, 184 have tested positive for COVID-19. So there's a lot of activity at the school, and so many things are happening there. So at the same time, there are some other students at Matopo Mission, Chinoi University, and Chinoi School, where they have been actually having problems with COVID-19. We're told that some of them have tested positive for the disease. So, in essence, what is going on now? There are some people who are going to these institutions to keep some kind of supplies. Some of them are coming from the Zimbabwe Christian Alliance, led by Reverend Hussein Isbanda. So let's listen to what Reverend Hussein Isbanda is saying about what they are doing for these schools.
My community that as I stand here, I represent church leaders from Atebeleland, from Midlands, from Mashonaland, from all over. So this is the church in action. Yeah. As you can see, Zimbabwe Christian Alliance, our main aim is to see a peaceful Zimbabwe. So we believe Uguti Imkushane, Logunye can bring discomfort to people. Like now, our communities are distressed by COVID-19. So we have been responding, taking immaterial like this to quarantine centers around the country, special targeting our border towns and inflow towns. But now we realize that John Talak was quite unique. Yes. It's not a quarantine center, but because of what has happened, we have people quarantined here, and we have decided to do an emergency response situation based on the needs that we received from you. So therefore today I've brought with us toilet papers. These are 20 times 9 packs. So these are almost 180 rolls that we have brought in, yes. And then we've got bleach, which is our chemicals that you need for cleaning, for making sure the place is safe. We've got 20 times 5 liters. So we hope this can push you for some time. And we brought a surgical mask. Yes. So we've got 1,950 of those surgical masks that are in a box. Then our buckets, we realize which you might need buckets either to separate things, materials, or for washing, for kids to be washing. So we brought 10 times 20 liters of these buckets for the school to see how we want to use them. I also want to take this time to appreciate UK Aid, which is the Foreign Commonwealth Office that actually had given us a donation to respond to COVID. So this is part of the donation. We decided to include John Talak into it. And our prayers are with both the students that are here, with you as teachers and authorities, as well as with the parents and communities. Our pastors here are actually going to be engaging with the parents. They're hoping the parents can form up a WhatsApp group and they can provide counseling. It's a very difficult time, but we keep praying and thanking God for for you, you are now frontline workers as you are here. And we really appreciate the care that the teachers and the leadership of the school have taken to assist our children who are here, because all of these are our children. And I want to take also this time to appreciate the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, and all government line ministries that have worked very hard to actually bring support to what is here. We've received a lot of cooperation and support from the Ministry of Health, from the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Schools, to make sure that they facilitate so that this donation is made possible as well. And also we want to thank the church leaders that are part of our broader leadership, who actually are the ones who push to say, please, can you do an emergency response to John Talak to make sure we assist. So here is our donation, and we thank God that it is. But I also want to point out that this is not the last one. We have responded with this, and we need to keep talking to you to see what other needs we have, and see how we can be of assistance to the school.
Thank you so much.
So that there is Reverend Hussein Spanda of the Zimbabwe Christian Alliance. He was speaking during the time when they were donating some goods to John Talak High School just outside Bulawayo. So as I said, there are 670 students and teachers that are isolated at the school, or let me say they are quarantined because of the outbreak of COVID-19. 184 students have been are said to have contracted COVID-19. So that's the scheme of things there. So marvelous.
Aiwa, kune avo vachangobva kupinda muchirongwa tinokuchingamidzai nemufaro pano pachirongwa chedu cheLiveTalk icho tiri kutepfenyura tiri kumba pamusoro pedenda reCovid-19. Pari zvino bazi rezveutano rinozivisa iro kuti pane vanhu vabatwa nechirwere ichi cheCovid-19 vanosvika 9,220 munyika pari zvino, uyezve kune avo vakabatwa nechirwere ichi vakachikunda vari pa8,250. Totarisa kuti uwandu hwevanhu vashaya kubva kuchirwere ichi vari pa268, uyezve avo vane chirwere ichi pari zvino vari pa702. Asi nyaya iri kunyanyonetsa inyaya yekuti chirwere ichi cheCovid-19 chatekeshera zvakare muzvikoro, sekutaura kwanga kuri kuita Gibbs kuti pane chikoro chekubulawayo kana kuti kunze kwebulawayo pari zvino chine vana vakawanikwa ivo vane uwandu vakawanikwa vachitestwa iyoyi COVID-19, vamwe vavo vakawanikwa ivo vachibatwa nechirwere ichi. Totarisa zvakare kuChinoi Technical College chiri kuChinoi ikoko pane vana zvakare vakawanikwa ivo vachibatwa nedenda irori reCovid-19 pari zvino, zvatoita kuti vamwe vana vanzi ivo vaende kunodzidza vari kumba kuitira kuti chirwere ichi chisatekeshere. Saka ndo zvatiri kuona zviri kuitika pamusoro pedenda reCovid-19 munyika pari zvino. Tozotarisa imo muno muAmerica nepasi rose, John Hopkins University inowanikwa iyo ine unyanzvi unotarisa kuti zvakamira sei panyaya yedenda irori reCovid-19 pasi rose nemunyika, inoti iyo pasi rose pari zvino takatarisa uwandu hwevanhu vari kubatwa neCovid-19 wasvika iwo pa58 million, kwozouya 1 million zvichidaudzira vabatwa ivo vakawanikwa vachishaya kubva kuCovid-19. Kwozouya imo muno muAmerica mune vanhu 12 million nekudaudzira vabatwa nedenda iri reCovid-19, 256,000 vakawanikwa ivo vachishaya. Nyaya iyo iri kunetsa chaizvo panyaya yeCovid-19 nekuti tinoona kuti pane kunetsana pakati pavaDonald Trump vebato remaRepublican navaJoe Biden vebato remaDemocrats panyaya yekuti zvichafamba sei pakutambidzwana kwemasimba, tichiona isu kuti pari zvino vaDonald Trump vari kuwanikwa ivo vasiri kutambidza magwaro enyaya yeCovid-19.
Yes, marvelous. I think we've got our next guest, but continue for some few seconds. Then we bring in
kuna vaJoe Biden vemademocrats avo pari zvino vakatarisirwa kudoma hurumende yavo mangwana, asi paine kutatsurirana kwemasimba kuti zvichafamba sei mune ramangwana. Saka ndo zvimwe zvatichange tiri kutarisa pamusoro pezvazvo, asi tichatarisa zvakare nyaya yenhabvu, nyaya yemaUnder 17 yanetsa. Gibbs, up to you now.
Yes, marvelous. Njengoba isithi marvelous lapho ukuthi sikhuluma nge-COVID-19 kubuye ke ukhetho lweMelika njalo le-Under 17 eseqotshwe kuKhosafa. Silenhlanhla ngoba sisithole umnumzana uXolisani kwesela wezifa Welcome to the program, Mr. Kusela. So tell us what is going on, Mr. Kusela. We see that the under-17 team has been, disqualified. What is going on?
Yes, we confirm that we received the correspondence from the Council of Southern Africa Football Association, that is COSAFA, to the effect that our team has been expelled from the ongoing COSAFA Under-17 boys tournament due to the fact that one of our boys had served what they call in English an MRI chair. It was really dangerous for us. We are quite disappointed about the news because prior to that departure, before going to South Africa, our boys had been checked up, and all those who were found to be over 17 years had been checked. So all the boys that traveled to South Africa have been tested, and everyone has been quite aged.
Yes. So what happened? What happened then, Kusela?
We are notified by the COSAFA doctor that in conducting the MRI test, what they are looking at is not cheating, but they are looking at eligibility. What the example that has been given is this kid in growing up.
Mm-hmm.
They grow up differently. Someone might be 17 years of age, but due to circumstances, the boy might be far much older than 17 years.
So
Our team has satisfied on that basis.
did they identify the player that is involved? What is the protocol there like?
We've identified the player, but the steps given us the name of the player. So as we speak of in the dark, we don't know the name of the player.
So now, does it mean that you are going to field the same player maybe in the next tournament? Because you don't know the name of the player, so that may be a problem, right?
That is the problem, brother. But I understand where upcoming tournaments, there are some going to conduct prior to teams starting from that basis.
Right, so akusitshele ngesindebele baba Kwesela uthi kanti kuhamba njani? Akusitshele ngesintu sibili. Kwenzakalani ku-under 17 lapha? Usondele efonini yakho.
Yes, the terrain is upper. You see, everyone here abaneminyaka elishumi lasikhombisa 17 years of age. Sasebhalela sasebaqalisile asinakhethi impendulo engawukafu ukuthi sizuku ngahamba njani. Sesifake isithi ngesilungu i-appeal kodwa abaphendula i-appeal yethu.
Ye, akumbuze ngesitshona ngolapho-ke Marvelous.
Zvakafamba sei kuCOSAFA uyezve muchaita sei?
Vakavana kusamba kubva kuCOSAFA. Ichiti umwe watambi wenyu umwechete akaonekwa nemushina weCOSAFA kuti angava ane makore anopfuura 17 years. 17 years ndiyo makore anobvumirwa kuCOSAFA kuti vakomana kana achiuya kutournament anofanira kunge ane makore 17 years pasi pe-17.
Yes,
I think we've lost him.
Yeah, I think you are cut off. But basically, what you are saying is that they've received a letter from from
COSAFA,
indicating that they've been put out of the tournament. So he says, in essence, they are appealing against that because they're saying one player is overaged. But he's saying they've not told them who the player is. So the danger is they may field the same player in the next tournament. And that would be a problem.
Saka apo tiri kunzwa kubva kuna vaGwesela vesangano reZIFA vari kutaura ivo kuti pane mumwe mutambi weZimbabwe akawanikwa iye achinzi navana chiremba ane makore anodaudzira 17 awo anodiwa kuti munhu anga ari kutamba muCOSAFA tournament iyi. Saka vagwesela vari kuti ivo seZIFA vachawana vachiendesa appeal kana kuti vari kupikisa mutongo uyu, asi vari kutaura zvakare kuti COSAFA haina kukwanisa kunge ichivazivisa kuti mutambi uyu ndiani, zvekuti pane kuvhunzwa kwaitwa naGibbs apo kuti saka zvichafamba sei, hamuzowanikwa here muchitambisa mutambi mumwe chete iyeye mune mamwe matournament nekuti hamuna kuzivikana kuti ndiani. Ivo vakati aiwa, mukupindana kwenguva ndozvinhu zvavachada kuona kuti zvakamira sei, asi pari zvino vari kuti ivo sesangano reZIFA vari kupikisa mutongo iwoyi nekuti vari kutaura ivo kuti vana chiremba vemunyika yeZimbabwe vakanga vatarisa vatambi vese vakaona vari vane makore iwayo anodiwa 17 uyezve kukura kwevanhu sekutaura kwavagwesera kunosiyana kuti mumwe munhu bone density yake inokwanisa kunge yakakura, zvinova izvo zvinotariswa nevana chiremba vakanga vari ikoko kutournament, vakazoti aiwa Zimbabwe ngaiburitswe mumakwikwi iwaya. Gibbs.
Yes, I think we've got our second guest, and that is Mr. Kenneth Masie, I think. Let me just...
Advocate Masie.
Yes, Advocate Masie. Can you welcome him there?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Advocate Masie, tinokuchingamidza ine mufaro.
Dinofara, thank you very much kundiwidza pachirongwa.
Aiwa, tafara kuti makwanisa kupinda pachirongwa, ndozoti mune zvakawanda zvamanga muri kutarisana nezvazvo, asi tombotarisa zviri kuitika imo muno muAmerica panyaya yesarudzo. Muri kuona sei imi semagweta zviri kuitika pakati pava Donald Trump vemaRepublicans uyezve nava Joe Biden vanova ivo vemademocrats vari kutarisirwa kuti vange vari ivo vari kugadzwa semutungamiri mutsva akawanikwa achikunda musarudzo?
Semagweta tinoona, speaking on my behalf, tinoona senge zvinhu zvisiri kunyatsomira zvakanaka nekuti isusu America nedzimwe nyika dziri kunzoko inyika dzokuti tinoziva kuti dzine ma-institutions nema-structures edemocracy akasimba avepo kwenguva yakati rebei. Saka zvinhu zvakadai zvinhu zvatinotarisira kuva tichiona kunyika dziri kuva dzinonzi ma-developing countries zisiri neanonzi ma-young democracies. Saka kana tichiona makakatano ari kuitwa iko zvino anoita pachirungu kuti anoita discourage maonero development democracy, and but tinokuvimba kwakanaka kuti nekufamba kwenguva zvichaita hazvo angove makakatano ari kuita iko zvino, but toziva kuti kuda nokufamba kwenguva zvichaita hazvo because zvinhu zvokuti kana uri munhu ari kunze kweAmerica ari kuona zvinhu zvakadai zvinhu zvokuti unobva watanga kubvunza mibvunzo yakawanda stereki.
Maybe Advocate Kennedy Masie, just tell us a little bit about your bio. Who exactly are you? Because a lot of people are probably saying, we've heard this name, but who is this guy, before we carry on?
Okay, so my name is Kennedy Masie. As you mentioned, I'm a human rights lawyer. I'm an international human rights lawyer, and I did a lot of work in the civic and political rights field in Zimbabwe, where I represented activists who would have been arrested for exercising their fundamental freedoms and also constitutional rights.
But your most famous case, if I may, if you can just correct me, is Itai Dzamara, who at the moment is still missing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, Itai Dzamara was my client before he disappeared. I represented him before he disappeared, when he was abducted, tortured, and also mercilessly assaulted by the police in Zimbabwe. And right now, as you mentioned, he's still missing, and we are still advocating for the government to do proper investigations and arrest people who are currently in the public domain, whose names have been identified as being his abductors.
Going back to the US elections, what do you see happening come January the 20th? You're a lawyer yourself, an advocate. What do you see happening? Do you think there are enough systems in place to make sure that the transfer of power is done smoothly, or what's your take on what we're seeing happening here?
Yes, my take is that I do have confidence that the systems are properly in place here in the United States. They've been there for a very long time. And of course, what's happening right now actually, dampens the spirit of some of us who are activists and who have studied the system and also have used it as an example, as an epitome, an example of how democracy should run. And at the moment, things are a bit hazy, and people should know, like, who are not really into understanding really what's happening here, that what happened the previous weeks is, those are some of the things that are expected to happen during elections. A challenger can say that he wants a rerun, or can do whatever he wants to say, but these are some of the things that were not expected here, because over time nothing like this has ever happened, where a president denigrates the whole system of elections, and words coming out that they are not going to accept those elections. So some of these things are really dampening the spirits of people in developing, who come from developing countries like myself, who aspire for real principles of democracy and the rule of law to come out and be used as an example by developing countries through systems like the ones that have been put in the United States. But I believe that come January the 20th, there will be a smooth transfer of power.
And Advocate Masia, maybe we see that President-elect Joe Biden is expected to name his cabinet tomorrow. What do you think he's going to take into account as he prepares to name that cabinet, looking at the current state of things in America? You're in Texas, you're thick in the things, of the American culture and what's going on. What do you think he will be looking at?
Well, I think from the from what I've been following through the whole election season and the campaigns and these speeches that he wants to bring back the soul of America, basically talking about understanding real issues that are actually affecting those marginalized people who have not had a voice for a very long time. I think some of the issues that you probably will be addressing is the issue of issues of race, issues of race that have been that we've seen in the couple of months, people demonstrating, and issues of police brutality that has also been witnessed over time. And I also believe that he might also take this opportunity to also make sure that women are actually brought up into positions of power, and that the women are heard in his government. And I also believe and think that you probably also touch on issues regarding immigration, because immigration has also been a contentious issue in the past 4 years, and a lot of immigrants felt sidelined by the current administration, and I believe is going to to talk about that and also deal about that, and specifically dealing with one issue that is that was before the courts, that has to do with the DACA, children of illegal immigrants in courts that still are not being recognized within the system and might face deportation if nothing happens. So I think that, amongst many other things, are some of the things that you're probably going to address that will appeal to the broader population here in the United States.
Thank you.
Yes, Advocate Masie, what are your fears about the U.S. election?
Well, my fears, I think at the moment is basically the issue of uncertainty being, surrounding the issue of transfer of power. But as I said, I believe that there will be a smooth transfer of power. But the uncertainty in itself raises fear in many people, not just myself, but also people who voted in the elections, and also people who voted against also the president-elect, because this has never been seen before, where there is a sort of like a lacuna, a gap, or people not knowing what will happen in the next few weeks. So basically, those fears need to be addressed very quickly, so that people move on and people focus on real issues that are affecting people. Right now, we've got the pandemic that has reached affected over 3 million United States citizens, and these are some of the issues that need to be dealt with immediately, and that need general consensus between the incoming and the outgoing, so that there can be a smooth transfer of power and ideas flowing and channeling, so that people can, lives can be saved.
But talking about that COVID-19, we see there's actually a jostling of power. Mr. Trump is saying he's not handing over the paperwork to the COVID-19 task force. How does that play out when you look at it?
Yeah, that also plays into the fears that that people may have, because that should not be happening at the moment. I think the leaders need to put aside the egos and make sure that they put the people first, because as we speak, each day as it counts, as it goes, a lot of people are dying, a lot of people are being affected by this pandemic, and it's not stopping. It will not stop for any politics, it will not stop for any ego, but people will just keep on dying. So I believe there's need for our leaders to really focus on these issues, so that lives can be saved.
Now, there's this question of electors being sought around by the Republicans. There's this issue that they can end up, using certain electors to come to Washington to vote for the president instead of those original electors. How possible is that?
Well, I wouldn't want to comment on that. I'm not really an expert in constitutional law or on elections in the United States. But if something like that happens, then just speaking as a lay person, it will then go into the issue of discrediting what we call the universal suffrage, the right to vote that a lot of Americans have died for, and that, I don't think that would be a very good thing. It will also set a bad example for other countries that are also developing their systems of elections. That you can lose elections but still remain in power. Those are some of the things that we've been fighting fighting against, even in Zimbabwe, where Robert Mugabe in 2008 and other elections lost the elections, but still remained in power and kept on governing by force. So those are some of the things that we do not want countries in the first world to start doing, because once they start doing that, it will just cascade into a very unresuscitatable situation where the United States will be used as a bad example for people who just want to stay in power.
Yes, hold on there. We've got our second guest, and that is Mwa Wongwe. Mwa Wongwe, welcome to the program.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Now, it's almost 21 days after the election. Am I right there? Now there's still an issue here, so how are you feeling after voting when all this is happening?
Well, when we talk about how I'm feeling right now, it's a state of confusion. This is uncharted territory, so to speak, especially for the United States. And given how our democracy is viewed as, like the beacon where everybody wants to aspire. So right now, what I'm more concerned about is what the current president could do with the remaining time, because he still does have time. So that's my main concern. I'm not necessarily worried about him staying in power because the systems are in place. So I'm pretty confident that on January 20th, President-elect Biden will be sworn in, but it's the question of what will happen between now and then. We've already kind of seen what's going on, right? All these things happening with foreign policy, with new things. I think there's like 2 executions that are now trying to be done before he leaves. All those things that I feel like that's more concerning.
But let's make sure that we know exactly what is going on. The president is still the president and has got a right to appeal against anything that he sees is going wrong, especially the outcome of the elections. So that make you uncomfortable when he's actually following the law?
No, that doesn't make him uncomfortable. If we look back in 2016, those things happened as well with Hillary, but she conceded, right, the very night. So that's the difference here. It's one thing to go out and say the elections are rigged. It's another to go into the court of law. If you actually look at what they're presenting in court, it's a whole different narrative from what they. So there's like a PR thing happening, like a political thing, and then there's the quote unquote court going through the court. You're allowed to do that. And I believe they're recounting Georgia. They've asked to get that recounted for the 3rd time, and that's okay. I think the question now is, what's the end goal here if they keep saying it was rigged? And so those are 2 different things. In terms of pursuing the courts, that's fine. And I think everybody would be okay with that if it was just done the right way, where it's not undermining the democracy and the votes of the people.
Tomboya kwamuri mwahungwe tinoona kuti president-elect Joe Biden vari kutarisirwa kudomwa vatingati cabinet yavo kana kuti makurukota avo mangwana. Iwe semumwe munhu akavhota, zvii zvauri kutarisira kuti ungada kuona mucabinet yavaBiden yakamira zvainenge yakaita mangwana?
Ndiri kutarisira kuona experience, vanhu vanoziva zvavari kuita. Also kuona vanhu vanoreflecta the country yavari kurepresenta, right? Because America is diverse, in all kinds of people from all walks of life. Saka cabinet iriko right now aitaridze izvozvo. Saka ndiri kutarisira kuti ndaona the UN, it's a Black woman. Saka seeing things like that, seeing even the Secretary of State, it's someone that I've read his stuff, and he seems very aware of foreign policy. Saka tiri kuona kuti vanhu vanoziva zvavari kuita, zvizvo zvekuti nokuti uri shamwari yangu takamboitirana madhiri kuside. It's like uri kuziva and uri kurepresent, wakafanana nevanhu vauri kurepresenta. Saka ndozvandiri I really believe kuti President-elect Biden cabinet yavo icharakidza representation of vanhu vemunyika.
Ndomboenda kuna vamasiye. Takatarisa nyika dzekuAfrica vachitarisa zviri kuitika imo muno muAmerica, nyanya nekuti tinoona ndo vanowanzowanikwa ivo vachinzi itai zvakati, toda kuti muteedzere zvakati. Vari kuzviona sei? Vari kubata sei zvavari kuona zviri kuitika kuno?
Ndoona senge zvinhu zviri paviri. Pane nyika dziri kutofara izvi so. Ndowangotaura kuti Zimbabwe inongova ichitofara izvi so ichitoti honai. But kune dzimwe nyikawo futi dziri kutoti haiwa izvi hazvina kunaka, because izvi ndo zvati achizama kuda kuti ti-inspire kuva in terms of ma-structures e-democracy. And zvakadai so zvinobva zvaisa futi even vanhu vanomirira kodzero dzevanhu munyika dziri chiri kudevelopa in danger. I can say in danger, in that meme muchidhira nema-communities amene muchidhira nawo. And pane zvinhu zvamene muchitaura muchiti toda kuaspire kuva, then izvinhu zvakadai zvazoitika, then vanhu vavo vanobva vangozokutarisai vachiita senge imi hamuna kuda maybe zvatiri kuita zviri wrong, of which it's something zvisingapi inspiration kune ma-structures achiri developing. America can sustain itself, zvakadai zvogona kuitika, then they'll just move on. As if nothing happened, because they have structures that have been there for a very long time that can deal with such situations. But kana chitasa nyika dziri kuAfrica uko, ndoona zvinhu zvakadai so zvinotopa hope kune vanhu vaya vagara vasingatotarisiri kuva nema-human rights kana kurespecta ma-human rights or even kurespecta ma-institutions avo anenge ari in place. Saka zvinhu zvinototyisa kana uri munhu ari kuona nyika dziri kuafrica, then kune vamwewo dzimwe nyika toziva kuti pane dzimwe nyikawo dziri kugavhenwa zviri right, zvinhu zvinovapawo kuti vasave nekufara, because ma-institutions avakuda kuzama kudevelopa, and democracy in some countries is very young. So
maybe Advocate, if you can, Advocate Masay, if you can put that in English, that how are other developing countries viewing what is going on in the United States in terms of power sharing? What do you think their sentiment is at the moment?
I think in some developing countries where we have seen, the abuse of power and the disrespecting of their own institutions, it's some of these countries, I might say, they might be smiling or even happy because the United States is the epitome of democracy and the rule of law in terms of how they govern their systems. And there are some countries, of course, in Africa. We know that there are many countries in Africa that have got good institutions that probably are feeling sad right now because it's something that that dampens the spirit, of progress towards the realization of the rule of law, of the principles of democracy that everyone wants to inspire. The United States has been has its own systems, and right now I can tell you that they will deal with this issue as if it never happens. It never happened. So, but now the effect of it within these few months might have so many long-lasting effect in other countries that are inspiring to have structures that are very good in terms of democracy. So it's a sad thing that we have over time taken 10 steps forward, but over a few months we have 1,000 steps going backwards in terms of trying to develop our systems in Africa. So it's not good, and it also puts even human rights defenders and democracy advocates in Africa at risk, in more risk, in that whatever as human rights advocates, like in Africa, there are systems that we've always aspired to have in Africa, which are found in Western countries and which have been built over time. Because if you look at the systems in the United States, they've got hundreds of years that have made them so effective. So if you are in Africa and you're advocating for human rights and for democracy, and such things happen, it will actually put you at risk at the people who are trying to actually convince that these systems work. And whatever you be selling to them, then it becomes rubbish to them, and you'll be then looked at in a different way. In that, if you want to go back to the same community with the same arguments, then you might be seen in another way that might put you at risk.
Thank you.
Now we've got Reverend Hussein Spanda. Spanda, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the program.
Thank you so much. So before going into COVID and other things, so the US elections, what's your take on what is going on?
Well, I think like what the previous speaker was saying, I think for democracy here in Africa and in countries like Zimbabwe, where there are always election disputes, where people contest the results of an election, of course, our system of conducting elections is very different from the United States. And but however, I think the current ongoing stalemate and issues being raised is actually going to be a disadvantage when countries like Zimbabwe hold elections, because that can be used as an excuse to say if the US is failing to conduct its own elections and agree on outcomes, it has no moral standing to comment on elections like those that will be held in Zimbabwe. So it's a bit tricky, I think, but however, we pray and believe that the system, which has been established for many, many years, for hundreds of years, is going to hold, and eventually will have a positive outcome out of this whole issue.
Yes, cela ukufana nesindebele lakho mfundisi.
Uhlupho ukuthi ukumisana lokho kukhona khathesi eMelika lapho upresident okhona uTrump esala ukuvuma ama results. Udubo lukhona ukuthi nxa sesikuletha ngapha kithi eZimbabwe kuzanika isizathu sokuthi nxa kube lama elections impumela yakhona kube lokuphikisana abalapha eZimbabwe bazakuthi hawu nxa yona iMelika isehluleka kuthi ukuthi ayilamandla ukuthi ikhulume ngezinto zethu ngoba la yehluleke ukwenza ama elections ayo. Ngibona ngani lokhu kuyasixegisa abantu abasebenzayo ngapha eZimbabwe ngenxa yokuthi kuyanika amandla kulabo abangafuni idemocracy ukuthi bethi hayi lalapho ezalwa khona kuyehlula. Ngibona ngani kodwa siyathemba ukuthi hayi ngenxa yokuthi kudala yaphekwa ngali democracy sebele eminyaka eminingi besenza lezi zinto siyathemba ukuthi impumela yakhona izagcina isilungile. Njalo into esithokozayo ukuthi loba bephikisana ngalindlela sikaboni uhulumende sebenzisa amasotsha ukuchaya abantu lokunye izinto ezinjalo. Ngakho kuyatshengisela ukuthi hayi lokhu kulama balance of power abakhona.
Yeah, marvelous.
Maybe Reverend, if you can just before we move on. So as we were discussing right now that the president-elect Joe Biden is expected to name his cabinet tomorrow. What kind of people do you think he should be including in that cabinet? You're from outside and you're looking into what's going on here in the United States.
Well, I think for us, first of all, it would be good that if we have people who are not going to be internal looking, but that can continue the tradition that America has always had of also assisting other countries in terms of spreading of democracy. I think that is very important. But also, we hope that they can ratify some of the global treaties, like issues around climate, that are of concern for us and for everyone else globally. I think that President Trump had actually cancelled out. But also, we're hoping that this cabinet will be that the leadership that is going to be put in place will actually have a heart for Africa, that they'll think about us in Africa in terms of assisting us to progress from where we are, but also in terms of more business opportunities for our own people here, development aid to be increased. During this previous regime of Trump, we had seen a lot of cuts in terms of development aid. So I'm hoping that they can increase that.
Thank you so much. Advocate Masie, chitaurewo mchitsinhirewo zvataurwa naReverend zvimwewo zvamungada kuona zvingaitwe pane hurumende itsva iri kuuya ndezvipi zvingabatsire nyika dzakadai seZimbabwe?
Nditsinira zvataura naReverend vataura mapoints ari akakosha stereke kunyanya panyaya dzeclimate change. Climate change inyaya yakatoiswa paside nehurumende iripo. Sezvamunoziva America yakabuda muParis Agreement makore apfuura, and tinoimba kuti nehurumende nyuwani vachadzokera futi muParis Agreement iyoyo. And nyaya yeclimate change iri kubata nyika dzakawanda, iko zvino tiri kuwindisa madroughts ari kuitika kuAfrica uko nedzimwe njodzi dzinongoitika nango even kuno kuna America, mahurricane and all that stuff, inyaya dzeclimate change, and dzakaonekwa kuti dzibatwe nezvakanaka tinoimba kuti upenyu hwakawanda hunoseveka. And Reverend vataura futi panyaya yeaid. Aid chinhu chakakosha. Pamakore apfuura apa tachiona makatsi akawanda aitika kune magrants aibatsira different sectors, kunyanyanya vakadzi, widows, vana vasina vabereki, nyaya dzeHIV and AIDS nezvimwe zvirwere zvinokwanisa kudzivirika. Takaona kuti mari dzakadaro dzakawanda dzichikatwa and papasina mari yakakwana yekubatsira nyaya idzodzo. And Reverend vataura zvekare futi nyaya inobata stereki, nyaya yekuti America, I hope administration iri kuuya ichanyanyo kuwedzera kuonekera stereki panyaya dzekubatsira nyika in terms of advocating for human rights, and also building structures akasimba ekuti pave nehurumende inorespektawo maconstitutions evanhu, and inyaya dzakanyanya kosha pakuti dzinobatsira with the good structures of development and governance. Zvinobatsirawo kuti even nango pakazongozoya mari dzari kutaura dzedevelopment dzinoonekwa dzichiendawo kuma departments akakodzera pasina nyaya dzakanyanya wanda corruption.
Thank you so much. Let's go to Mwawongwe. What are your expectations if Biden is inaugurated in January?
In general, or I was still speaking about Africa as...
Just as a voter yourself.
So my expectations are that we start getting that unifying voice from the top, because what we know is the past 4 years, it's been very divisive. So I really expect that President Biden, once he's president, one, his cabinet will reflect who the American people are, his messaging, that calm voice, that voice of unity, whether it's received or not. I think just hearing from the president will make a difference. Just seeing that leadership, because as we can see with so many crises that we have, economical and this pandemic and everything going on, that it'll be really essential to hear a steady hand and that calming voice. I think that'll be important. I also think, as an immigrant in this country, it will be really good to hear that the president sees us as human beings as well, because really for the past 4 years, we've had that feeling of we don't belong, right? So I really hope and I believe that this new president and his administration will be a reflection of that America that we've been sold, that America that everyone is welcome here, that we're all represented, and that it's a question of whatever it is that you want to become. So I really hope that's what happens when president-elect becomes the president.
Mm-hmm.
Tiri papo Mwahungwe sechizvarwa cheZimbabwe chiri muno muAmerica, zvii zvauri kutarisira iwe kuti hurumende idzva iyi iri kutarisirwa kuuya ichaita apo vachangotora matomu imo muno muAmerica? Tinyanyottarisa zvatanga tiri kuona zviri kuitika iwo mazuva anaya tichienda kunopedza temu yavaDonald Trump.
So ndiri kutarisira kuti president vanyowani vachapa vanhu permission yekuti munyika munomu kuti zvinzi America yakanaka, kureva kuti inobvuma vanhu vese vakasiyana siyana. Hazvina basa kuti unobva kupi kana kuti wakazvarirwa kupi. Nyika ino iri open kune munhu wese. Nekuti chataona ndechekuti makore apfuura aya, kana uri munhu ari different, kana kuti munhu asina kuchena, hauzi welcome munyika muno, uri foreigner so to speak. And ndakaona kuti achisi chinhu chakatanga ne president varipo, asi chinhu chakapa vanhu permission, vanhu vaka-embolden zvekunzi it's okay. Vanhu unotoona kuti even kutaura kwamwe vanhu vakapiwa simba, power yekuti kana usiri murungu munyika muno mauze munyika muno. Saka ndakatarisira kuti president vanyowani vachaunza iyo nyaya yokuti aiwa nyika inoi inyika yakazara nevanhu ma-foreigners so to speak, ndo nyika inoi. And one of the things chandakaona chandiri kuhopa for, ndakatarisa nyaya yeasylum, ndikaona kuti government iriko izvinezvi yakaisa cap ye$15,000 for 2021. If I just to give reference, 1 year President Obama vakapa 85,000, President Bush vakapa I think his highest was like 95,000. Avakachokepa. Saka pane nyika dzakaita sana Somalia dzakatoiswa palist yekuti havaqualify. Saka ndiri kutarisira kuti government nyowani painopinda zvinhu zvakadaro izvozvo zvinobviswa, kurakidza kuti vamwe vedu vekuAfrica tese tinobvumidzwa kuwana opportunity yekupinda munomu zvakanaka.
Thank you so much, Gibbs.
Yes, let's go to Reverend Spanda. So Reverend Spanda, looking ahead, what is going to happen in USA, will you have confidence in US elections in the near future?
Well, yes, I think it's the systems are very intact there. They've endured, testing over years. I think also we have to look at it that governance systems are human constructed, whether they are democracy or whatever system people have. It's a human construct. So therefore, it will have its flaws. I think this is not the first time when America has faced a situation where a president has refused to step down, and the whole system kicks into place and will move in another person. So I think the confidence will be there next year when we see Biden coming into White House, and I'm sure the system will correct itself. So the confidence will be there. But of course, yes, it shows that there's a lot of needs for improvement. Electoral systems as well and systems of voting have got their own flaws. They are not going to be 100% perfect. So we need to also admit that. But however, in Africa, the problem we have is prior to the election itself, the context, the environment makes it almost, to be flawed before you even start to vote at all. So I think for our situations, it's worse off than what Americans or Europeans are experiencing.
Yes, so right now, we cannot say that the president is refusing to leave. In fact, he has a right not to concede, because conceding is not in the Constitution. It's a question of him saying, okay, I'm challenging the results, and that's it. If then comes a time for him to concede, he may concede, but it's a tradition and not constitutional. So with the same token, do you think that maybe for him not to concede is actually following the Constitution and is doing something that is rightfully his, to say, okay,
well,
as of now, I'm going to see what we're going to do next?
Yeah, well, I think actually I wanted to go there. That I think this is where I also admire the American system. The right to go to court, the right to challenge the election results, the right for him, for now, I mean, like what you're saying, you should wait for the official announcement of the results. So when it actually happens, because right now it's been the cable news and other people, who have been following and then making the announcements. But I think it is within his right to actually challenge these things in court, and for him to wait until he's really satisfied that that the results are now that he has lost. And I like the system that is allowing him to do that.
Yes.
Ngiyananzelela ukuthi umongameli okhona kathesi ubaba umongameli current president owe-America kathesi uTrump ulelungelo lakhe lokuthi angavumi ukuthi usedliwe, ngenxa yokuthi ukuvuma lokhu usudliwe njalo khona kulisiko ayisonto esesisekelweni sombuso we-America. Unjalo ulelungelo lokuthi aye ema-court azasuthiseke ukuthi babale kuhle amavoti wonke, ukuthi yonke ivoti okuthiwana ngeyakhe, le voti okuthiwa ngaBiden kubalwe kuhle, ame kuze kuyevumwa, kuze kugcine kusenziwa le official announcement. Lokhu mina ngiyakuthabela ukuthi i-America yona isystem yakhe iyakuvuma konke lokhu, njalo iyamnika ilungelo lona lelo. Njalo into emangalisayo ukuthi yena engupresident onguye obambe zonke izinto, ulelungelo lokuthi lathi hayi mina mbona ngana kusetshenzwanga kuhle. E-Africa ujayele ukuba ngumuntu lo oyabe nguye ophandle kubuseni, but lo obusayo nxa simbona njengale America sithi akubalwe kutsha. Kuyamangalisa njalo mina ngiyakuthanda khonokho ukuthi ama-courts ayahlala phansi ekhangela indaba yakhe, kuyebalwa kutsha azasuthiseke layo ukuthi ivoti yonke ibalwe kuhle, kwenziwe kahle.
Advocate Kennedy Masiye, motipo pfungwa dzenyu pane zviri kutaurwa naReverend Sibanda pamusoro pemamiriro akaita zvinhu imomo muAmerica?
Yeah, ndinotenderana naReverend kuti vaTrump vane kodzero yavo within constitution yokuchallenja outcome yema-elections nezvaanenge vachitaura. But isusu manje sevanhu vari kubva kunze nezvimwe zvinhu zvichizotaurwawo namaplatform akaita sana Twitter, kuti techinzwa kunzi kuchinzi kwai vanhu vakafa vakavhota zvakadaro, zvinhu zvinobva zvaita kuti vanhu vasinyatsozwisisa systems yacho, kuti vakaita sekuAfrica zvinhu zvatagara zvichingonzwawo nango kuZimbabwe kuti vanhu vakafa vanovhota ende zvinhu zvakadaro zvichiitika. Saka ndoona sekuti sezvo nango in as much as vatrump vane maonero avo eelection, ndoona senge pane zvimwe kuita kwava kuita kusinganyatso kubuda zviri twasa zvisingaenderani nekuva muno muamerica, zvinoita senge maybe zvinhu zviri kuitika kunyika dzakaita sekuzimbabwe. So ndinoimba kuti zvandingada kuona ndezvokuti kana pane zvinhu zvakadaro zvichiitika vangoshandisawo macourts matarava ari munomu ari very effective kuendesawo nyaya dzakadaro kumatare, obva vabudisawo evidence dzavo dzavanenge vachitaura kuti dzakaitika, then macourts obva apawo mutongo wavo. Bhozi kutaura pamaplatform akaita sana Facebook kana kuti vana Twitter zvinhu zvisina kunyatso kuita senge zvinopa any dignity kune ofisi yapresident. Saka isu tichida kuonawo zvinhu zvichifambawo negwara, nekuti guta senge tingoita njake senge tiri kuZimbabwe.
Aiwa, regai tiende kuna sisi Mwahungwe nokuti ndiri kuona ndofunga nguva yedu yadyanana. Tombotarisa nyaya yemadzimai pahurumende iri kuuya iyi, zvii zvaungada kuonawo panyaya yemadzimai nyanya imo muno muAmerica?
I believe in representation. I believe kuti you have to have a voice that's representing patable parkuitwa decisions and everything. And of course, andidi angu nyanyo emphasize kuti madzimai more than qualified, right? Because they are qualified women out there who have never been given the opportunity to be there and be the voice. Saka ndakatarisira kuona kuti, because majority of the population are women, but we're underrepresented in all kinds of places, government, whatever, leadership. Saka ndakatarisira kuti tinge tichiona madzimai varimo in those positions of power. Because the other thing that I noticed in 2016 Ranamai Clinton is subconsciously people are not actually used to that. Kuona munhu mudzimai ari papower. Not kuti vanenge vari consciously saying hatisi kuda kuti vadzimai vasumukire, but havana kuzvijaira kuzviona. And because of that, vakadzi vanotreatwa zviri differently. You know, when we really take a step back. Saka once vanhu vakatanga kuona madzimai are in power, madzimai achiita zvinhu, things happening, then it becomes the norm, right? It becomes that, oh, okay, it's no longer a thing. Yekuti saka vadzimai ngavamire apa. It's now like, no, vanongoqualify semunhu wese. Saka ndakatarisira, and I'm really confident kuti tichavaona madzimai of all backgrounds being represented vachitimirira tese. Tirobva tapiwa isusu tonotaura kutozviona kuti oh saka we can be whatever it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's go to Reverend Svanda. Your last word, and just mention what you're doing for schools that are affected by COVID. Just a few minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, we are actually assisting schools like John Talak that has been affected by COVID, which is now almost like a quarantine center. And we are providing necessary accessories like sanitizers, masks, personal protection stuff for the kids to ensure that we reduce the number of kids that can get infected, but that we also deal with the current challenge that they are facing. So a donation has been done to them, and we are continuing to assist them, especially trying to help them not only just to prevent, but also to ensure that kids who have not been infected will not get infected again. So we are praying, but now we've just heard news about Matopo mission. So it means we'll also move there and give them assistance as well.
So what type of assistance?
Well, we're giving them personal protection equipment, sanitizers, health kits like pads, sanitary pads for the girls. We're giving them soap. We're giving them toothbrush and toothpaste. We are giving them, the toilet papers to ensure that everyone has got their own roles. We give them quite a batch per kit to ensure that there is hygiene in the place. And also we're providing psychosocial support to the parents who are outside. A lot of them are traumatized. So we're talking to the parents and assisting them to be reassuring them and explaining about COVID, that people can recover, especially the age group of those kids that are affected at the schools, that they should be likely to recover. So it's been both the parents outside and the kids. There's a lot of trauma now around this situation.
aiwa apo tiri kunzwa kubva kuna Reverend Usaints Banda vachitaura ivo mabasa avari kuita ivo seZimbabwe Christian Alliance kubatsira vamwe vakabatwa neCovid-19 vana vepachikoro uyezve vachitaura ivo kuti vari kupa zvinhu zvakawanda vachibatsira zvakare vabereki kuti vanzwisise kuti chirwere ichi cheCovid-19 unogona kuchibata asi uchizogona kuchikunda saka mabasa mamwe avari kuita pari zvino. Gibbs.
Yes, sorry, we're out of time. We have to leave it there. We thank our guests this evening, Advocate Kenneth Masiye, who is a human rights lawyer, Reverend Hussein Sibanda of the Zimbabwe Christian Alliance, Mawonge is Zimbabwean living in USA, and Tolisani Kwesela, Zifa Communications and Development Manager. Signing off is Gibbs Dube in Maryland saying, good night, Zimbabwe.
I'm Marvelous Mhlanganya here in Washington, D.C., just saying that this is a pre-recorded program, so by the time you watch us, some of the numbers may have changed. See you tomorrow on Let's Talk Ngati Kurukurei.